So these are the USD Glitch Kids Adjustable Skate. And they come in two sizes, or really two size ranges, because they're adjustable. So they come in a children's size 13, it's like a youth size 2, or they also come in a size 4 to 6 adjustable range. And I'll put the conversions on screen so you can take a look at them as well to see them in your country. And so I really like that Power Slide made these in two different sizes. So right off the bat, the build quality and materials seem to be stuff you would find on most USD Power Slide type skates. Just on my first impressions, like all of the material feels, pretty premium. The wheels, the frame, all of that kind of stuff, like it's kind of stiff too. There's a lot of padding in here. It appears to be a neoprene toe. There's a lot of good build quality. Like it feels sturdy. It feels a little bit more premium than what you would find on Amazon. And honestly, at this price range, it's to be expected. And from this company, it's to be expected. Like I just mentioned, it feels a little bit stiff for a child. Like as an adult, I'd say like, hey, this is kind of a stiff boot if it was like my skate. But there's not a lot of give to it. And like kids are kind of light, especially for this smaller size. So they're not really going to be able to kind of use their weight to make it really flex. Like the cuff has a little bit more give. And I think that's due to the design of it being like X shaped, it being thinner materials in certain parts and thicker materials in other parts. And the fact that it's not completely closed, like it has a buckle and things like that. So usually cuffs are a little bit more flexible. The front to back flex, pretty good. Remember, they're going to be using their legs, which is a lot stronger than, my arm muscles here. So, I'm overall first impressions of it, like out of the box, are great. I mean, these things are tiny. Like, my foot, I wear a size 9 men, and my foot, it goes almost perfectly exactly from front to back. So that gives you a kind of example of how big they are. And they're a little bit like bottom heavy. So like the wheels are the heaviest part of the skate. By far, like the entire boot probably weighs half of what the sole frame does. So buckle is plastic, which is okay. It's that spring type buckle, so it doesn't snap back into place. It springs back into place like that. It's just a preference thing. Some people like it, some people don't. On the other side, the receptor here, you actually, what was interesting to me, it took me a second to figure this one out, but you actually have to pull the receptor back, like if you're wearing them, back towards yourself instead of away from yourself, which I'm used to doing, to get them to open up. And it actually hides all this excess material back underneath the cuff of the skate, which is good because, children have tiny ankles. So you're probably going to be cranking this thing pretty tight. If you're on the smaller end of everything, it should be pretty good. And then they snap back. If it's tight, you do have to pull it back. But, the tension, once you get back there, you should keep it shut. So I'm not going to assume that like anybody here is a rollerblader. I'm going to assume that like maybe you might have a kid and you haven't rollerbladed for years, or maybe you've never aggressive skated and you have a kid who wants to get into it. It's a great skate. I think these are going to be a great first skate to get your kid into it. Over some rec blades for a few different reasons, and I'll get into that a little bit more. So if you're a rollerblader, some of this might sound a little bit redundant, but I really want to go over some of these features because I haven't seen a breakdown video that goes into like really in depth here. I'm going to try and hold this at the right place so it's in focus. So there's a 45-degree scale on adult rollerblades, roller skates, inline skates. This will keep your kind of like heel kind of like sucked back into the skate so that you don't get like your foot moving around in the liner. And at this smallest position, I don't think they seem to do too much. Like I said, these are adjustable so they can extend, and I'll get into that a little bit later. This smallest position is going to keep it nice and tight. Get your, what I have to do is like tie my laces real tight. And then put them down into the strap on all of my skates that have straps on them, then buckle it closed. Then you don't have to worry about, them becoming untied in the middle of a session if your kid can't tie their skates or tie their shoelaces yet. There's also a toe strap, which doesn't do much at the like smallest position. When it gets a little bit more extended, and I'll show you what that looks like a little bit later, it does help keep everything just feeling a little bit more snug, because when you get to the largest size, there's a little bit of play in the toe area because it's extended out a little bit more, less compact. So you have the liner, you have this kind of like, I'll call it the forefoot like kind of toe cap area. So you can see this area right in here is a separate piece that kind of like sits into the heel right here, and then you have the cuff attached to the heel. So the cuff is, obviously this upper port. The heel is down here, and you'll see there's a little button back here where you can adjust positions. And then you have the toe cap, and that slides forward and backwards. Also has your lacing system in there too. And there's some slits in here to kind of make sure that the laces do actually pull the boot down onto the top of the foot. That fourth piece, the liner here, it is riveted to the back of the cuff. So I can't actually get the liner out to see. So like a lot of adjustable skates have the liner in that toe box area, or the forefoot toe box area, where the liner is kind of like sitting inside of itself so that it can extend. And at the longest piece, it kind of like fits together like a puzzle. But when you put it back short again, it kind of slides over itself and you have like a little lump in there. This, and I can't even get my hands in there. Like that's how small this skate is. But there's a little slit in here, and like from poking around, the toe piece looks like it's a piece of neoprene in there so that it looks like it's going to extend without being too tight on a child's foot. So it's going to be like a very thick, stretchy sock as they put their foot in there and they grow into it a little bit more, which is good because kids, if you've ever bought shoes for your kids, you know that they could outgrow them in any minute when they hit a little growth spurt. So my daughter just moved into a size 13, so I have to repackage these for her birthday in a few weeks from now. So I have to make it look like I'd never touched these. But she's been wanting a pair of aggressive skates because she's been using her rec skates, and she's been seeing me grind at the skate park and on rails and things like that. And rec skates are fine to go to the skate park with. You can learn on them. But if you want to get into aggressive stuff, really you're going to want something that has a flat sole plate on it, meant for grinding, has a black backslide groove and like a nice groove in between on your frame right here. Normally this is not called a sole frame on aggressive skates. Sole frames are when the frame, the chassis that holds all of your wheels in place on it, is attached to the grinding plate area up here called the sole plate. This is all one piece. Sometimes skate companies do this to reduce weight, to reduce cost. You get a little bit more stability because it's one less piece that can come off. Disadvantages of that are like if something breaks, you're kind of out of luck here because I don't think they sell replacement parts for this. Whereas like, bigger skates, you can buy replacement sole plates. And as you grind and like if you get into street skating, you're going to wear your skates down a little bit faster especially if you're grinding like cement ledges, marble ledges, things like that. You're going to like wear these pieces down. That's not a bad thing. I actually love to session my skates on a piece of cement or marble before I take them anywhere else because like you get like a custom groove that's like really designed for like the ergonomics of your body. The problem is after a while, like stuff just ends up breaking down. I don't think that'll be a problem for a kid, especially one that's not street skating. If you're just sticking to the skate park, these skates are going to last probably until they grow out of them. And you could probably and what I'm probably going to do these, I'm probably going to give them away to somebody who has a kid who's interested in aggressive skating once my daughter grows out of them, because I'm just trying to get more and more people into the sport. And it's a little bit more expensive barrier to entry because, a good pair of skates for a kid, like we're looking at like $150 to $200. So it's kind of a pricey thing. Your sole here has like a nice little groove on it. Love that. And so the groove, what that does, if you're on a rail or a ledge, when you tip your skate to kind of lock in on both the H block groove here, that's the groove in the middle, and your backslide groove here, that's this groove here. On here, you do have to like bend your foot quite a lot to kind of, let's say this is a flat grinding surface here, to get down. However, it is a nice little groove that's going to try and keep you locked in a little bit more. I love that. I think it is a great groove on here. This groove right here, you can see like it extends down a little bit. That's to give you a little bit of protection. It's called wheel bite protection. And what that's going to do is like if your wheel hits a rail or something like that, sometimes it sticks to it and like you'll stop sliding. It'll kind of like buck you off the rail. And so you have this groove here that extends down a little bit to kind of prevent that from happening as much as possible, right? Tipping your foot helps a little bit. That's why I said like, a lot of skate tricks, you're tipping a foot like this, or kind of like this, depending on which way you're grinding. So, yeah, very rarely are you perfectly straight up and down on these things. The sole plate here, It's small, but that's because this is a small like skate. There's good and bad. A bigger sole plate is going to make it a little bit easier for you to lock on. It's probably going to be a little bit easier to learn on. Whereas like this skate is, it's like maybe like an inch and a half at the widest part. I'll put the actual measurement up here once I measure it. But that's fine because instead of being perfectly straight up and down, like this on the obstacle that you are grinding, you do want to tilt your foot just a little bit to really make sure that you lock on, especially if they're grinding on like a rail. You really do want to tip your foot a little bit. So this will actually be a little bit harder, but it'll teach them good form to like bend their knees and angle the right direction and to like get on top of a rail so you lock into it and you don't just kind of like slip or slide off, and you can kind of just hold it and go down the whole length of the obstacle. The negative plate is even smaller than that. The axle bolts on here on this sole frame are square on one side, meaning that, you know, you only need one tool to open it up, and this kind of holds it in place because the square won't spin, but this will, and so you just need kind of one bolt to undo that. And you will have to change these wheels. These are soft wheels, so soft wheels just wear down quicker if your kid is not just only skating in the skate park. These softer wheels are great for like those polished cement skate parks and wooden skate park ramps. Not so great for like concrete and asphalt. They're going to get worn down really quick on there. And so you're going to be rotating these wheels a few different times because you don't want them to be completely like triangular shaped. You want to rotate them before they get to that. So speaking of stability, they made the right call in putting like square profile wheels. There's different profile wheels. Some of them come to a more rounded shape. Some of them almost come to a point. They're called bullet profile, and then there's rounded, and then there's flat. This is a flat one, and this is what, if they didn't come with flat wheels, I would have bought flat wheels and put them on for my daughter. It just helps with more stability. There's more contact with the surface when you're straight up and down. If you had those more rounder profiles, that's more for agility and like being able to turn and swivel really quickly, which when you're first learning, we're just learning about balance and stability at first. So that was a good call. These are 58 millimeter wheels, so meaning that they are, you know, that's the size of them. I don't think you could go bigger than 58 millimeter on here. I mean, you might be able to, depending on the profile, but I think that's actually a good choice because it would raise the ride height a little bit taller. And these are about the size of a normal frame, but the skate boot is like really small. So like I'm a little bit worried about like height differential there. So like actually this is like the only change I would probably make, and I'm not going to make them until these wheels wear out. But I would probably get 55 millimeter wheels with this profile. I would probably go 90 hardness about, because that's a good all-around wheel. Like you could take it in the street and it'll last a little bit longer. You take it to the park. It won't be as grippy, but not going to slide out. The other thing you could do, and it's going to be smaller, so it'll lower the ride height. The other thing you could do is get even harder wheels, so you could go like 55 all the way across and do like 90 on the outside and like 92 on the inside. So these are even harder, so that if they do, when you're grinding on a rail and they're not like perfectly on there, and it touches like that, that it won't stick to it. It's less likely to stick to it, and it'll probably slide a little bit easier. That's just one thing that like when I do skate flat, I do put harder wheels in there instead of like grind wheels, which are the really small ones that like if you do happen to roll over something, they will roll, but they're so hard. They're really meant for like if you're grinding obstacles and they touch, like you're still going to slide no matter what. Sorry, I had to go get a tool to open this up. It does come with a tool. So it has a bearing removal and like insertion tool on one end, little hole so you could put in a keychain, and then a little hex Allen key for that. And shameless plug, I love Oak City Skateshop. I'm on the East Coast. This is the like default skate shop that I go to. Long there is like super awesome. He's always writing handwritten notes. He wrote a note to me and my daughter saying like, "Hey, I hope you enjoy your time together." He gave us an Oak City Skateshop bag, which is going to be like perfect for her to carry her skates around in, so I don't have to buy her a skate backpack. He also gave us, nice pair of sunglasses, got to protect your eyes. Nice little, some candy, some stickers, all stuff my daughter will love to throw on her skates and helmet, that kind of thing. So shout out to Long at Oak City Skate Shop. He's the best. All right. So the way that you adjust these is you take your little hex key. You're going to take off the second wheel from the front. These are brand new, so the Loctite on here is probably gonna give me a little bit of trouble. Might be a little bit difficult to do it one-handed. So you pop the screw head out on one side, you take your hex key and you give it a little poke, and you poke out the axle, which is this long piece here. I'm gonna wiggle this wheel out. Make sure you don't lose the spacers in here. That's going to keep everything rolling nice and smooth. And then there's this piece in here. So you're just going to undo that piece. And then next, you're going to do the same thing, but on this back wheel. All right. And again, remove the silver one on here. And you can use the same tool to adjust everything on this skate, which is awesome. It's probably a good idea to just have a few extra hex keys that are this size in your car, in your backpack, on your keychain. I have a little like multi-tool thing that has one on here. Just always a bad time to like not have that. And then what you do is you push this, and there's actually little markers right here. I'll clip to a close-up of this shot that says 31, 32, 33, 34, and that's just like the sizes in EU. And so you're going to unstrap this 45-degree strap, because remember, it sucks everything back in there. So you're going to press this push button, and you're just going to pull it until it adjusts where you want it, and it will actually kind of like snap into place. And so as you can see, there's a little bit of play in the toe. Now you are going to bolt it down, but there's going to be a little bit of wiggle. So that's where the toe strap comes in. So this is now at the longest setting, and you're just going to unstrap your toe strap, slide everything back in here, and then look at it through the bottom here and make sure you have a place to bolt everything down. And at the bottom here, you can see there's two holes. So at the biggest setting, there's a second hole where everything will line up. And at the smaller settings, you can see it'll line up to the top there. So I just wanted to point that out. You're just going to reattach everything back the way it was. And then the toe strap just becomes a little bit more important. And like I said, it doesn't wiggle a lot, even though it's not bolted in right now. Like, it doesn't wiggle. There's just it's just to prevent any play from happening if there is. Because remember, the weight of your kid in here might make it wiggle a little bit more. But even then, it's still extremely stable. Additionally, if you're new to skating, or you're skating with your kid, or you want to help your kid learn and there's no skating lessons by you, I'm going to link down in the description to someone named Polly, her YouTube channel. She teaches people how to inline skate, and she just has some good beginner videos that I recommend you checking out. I'm going to stop before I start ramble.